Okay, so d4 or knight f3. Let's see. Nelly. Okay, so Nelly says d4. Maria. Okay, Maria also says d4. Does anyone think that knight f3 is the correct move? So, Evan, do you think knight f3 is the correct move? Okay, and Rito? Okay, so now let's look at this position. So, first move, we played c4 to try and attack a square in the center, right? These are the four squares. We are attacking this square. And the knight comes out, and it's also trying to attack squares. But if we remember the opening principles, we first move one pawn into the center. And if our opponent doesn't do that, then we immediately have to move another pawn into the center and attack. So in this case, our opponent played knight to f6. That's not a pawn move, right? And now what we can do is play something like d4, which is the correct move. Because now we have a lot of squares to attack in the center. And this gives us more space, and more space equals an easier game to play. Okay, so in this case, d4 was the correct move. Now let's keep going. So let's say black now plays here. We start following our plan, remember? So we develop our knights. Okay. And then we develop our bishop. Okay. Now we have this position. Now in this position, should we castle? Should we take this pawn? Or should we play bishop d2? We have three options. Castle, take the pawn, c takes d5, or play bishop d2. Evan? Okay, so Evan thinks castles. Roma? Okay, Roma also thinks castles. Zane? You're on mute. Zane also says castle. So yeah, you guys are all correct. So good thing that you remembered your opening principles, because after we develop our bishop, now we castle. So the problem with something like c takes d5, it's like taking this pawn, is we're not following our opening principles. And the reason that's not good is because now let's say he takes with his knight. Now his knight is really strong, right? It's in the middle of the board. If you can get a knight to the middle of the board, it's almost always really good. Now you might be thinking, what if, well, I just take back? Well, now he can just take back with his pawn. Now his bishop, both his bishops are really good, and his knight is still in the center, right? So it's like we didn't gain anything out of this. And most of the time, if we're exchanging a piece, so like we take one of our opponent's pieces, so in this case we took his piece, his knight, he takes back, we usually want to try and gain something, and in this case we didn't gain anything, so it's probably not that useful. Okay, so that's why c takes d5 isn't good. Bishop d2, it's like an okay move, but uh, it's just developing our bishop to a pretty useless square, right? It's still being blocked on both sides. It can't do anything. So this bishop isn't exactly doing anything. It's fine if we just leave it here for now. Maybe later, if this pawn ends up moving, then this bishop will become good because it'll like be able to move out here. So yeah, that is why castles is the best move. Nicole, do you have a question? if we move the light squared bishop, yeah, another reason that this move wouldn't be very good is because this bishop over here it was defending this pawn. And now if we move our bishop, then this pawn is taken. So that wouldn't be very useful to us. Okay, so now let's find another place. So we castled, right? Let's say he takes our pawn. Now we have our bishop here, we can just take back. So now he plays, let's say, bishop to d6. He's not following the plan, right? He just moved the same bishop twice in the opening. He just moved this bishop here, and a few moves later, he moved the bishop here. So it's kind of like he wasted a move. So now, in this position, is the best move e4, rook to e1, or queen to c2. e4, rook to e1, or queen to c2. Jotun. So Jotun says e4. Maria. Okay, so are you saying rook to e1? Okay, so Maria says rook to e1. And let's see, let's get one more. Rito. And Rito also says pawn to e4. So yeah, the best move in this position is moving the pawn to e4. And the reason for this is now, remember, if any time we can, if we can get two pawns in the middle like this on d4 and e4, it's always good for us. Anytime we can do this. And the reason that is because once these two pawns are in the center, we get space, then we can develop our bishops and rooks and queens much easier. Okay, now let's keep going. Let's say he plays bishop to d7. Now in this case is the best move rook to e1, bishop to g5, or d5. Or sorry, not d5, e5. So rook to e1, bishop to g5, or e5. Hita? Okay. Do you think bishop g5? Okay. And Nicole? Okay, so you're saying bishop to b5. Okay. And Evan? Okay, and Evan also says bishop to g5. So let's just get one more guess. Jetton? And Jetton says pawn to e5. So in this case, bishop g5 looks like it's a good move, right? We're putting the knight in a pin. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good move. But in this case, we have a really good move, which is e5. And this, when one of our pieces is attacking two of our other opponent pieces, right? Does anyone know what this is called? Evan? Yeah, so it can be called a double attack. That's one of the um ways to call this. Hita? Yeah, so the most proper name is a fork. And it's like, you know how a fork has like different like things, right? It's kind of like that. Uh, in this case, our pawn is attacking the opponent's bishop and their knight. That means if they move one of them, let's say he moves the bishop, then we can capture the other piece. So this is called a tactic. So tactic is basically when you move, it's like something that you can do to like win material. It's like a tricky move. It's like a normal move would be bishop to g5. This is a good normal move, right? You're giving a pin, you develop your bishop. It's following all the principles. But sometimes, and in like the lower rated people's like games, you'll also see that they'll make a lot of mistakes. And you usually have to use tactics or something like e5, which is giving a fork to try and punish them, right? For if they make a bad move, you have to try and punish them using a fork or uh, winning material with like a discovered check, which you'll learn about later. So stuff like that. And yeah, so you always have to be lookout for forks and pins and stuff like that when you're playing in a game, because if you get trapped in one of those, it's very difficult to come out of. Okay, so it looks like it's almost time for us to leave. It's 6:14. So, um for today's homework, I want you guys to go to this puzzle piece over here and then click the first thing, which is, or no, actually click the last thing. It's called custom puzzles. Okay. And now what you can do here is choose from here. It says like select themes. You can choose fork or double attack. See, so it can be called a double attack. And I think you'll be able to, yes, pin. So I want you guys to practice these two, the pin and then the fork. So both of these are like pretty common and important tactical motives. So it's like important tactics that can happen and will happen a lot in your games. So it's important that you know this. So what you want to do then is hit rating range and go from, I think you can just leave that at 0 and go to 1000. And then once you start, you'll see a lot of pins and forks tactics. So like in this case, this pawn is hanging, so we just take. And now what's a way for this knight to give a fork? Let's just do this one, and then we can go. Hita? Okay. Melissa? Yeah, good job. So knight to c2, right? So this queen couldn't capture because the queen is defending. We are attacking both rooks, so once he moves one rook, which he did, we'll take the other rook. So I don't know if it like allows you to do as many as you want. I know like for just basic members it only allows like 5 maybe, but if it just try to do as many as you can. If it only allows you to do 5, just do those 5, that's fine. But if you can keep going, try to do at least like 15. It should only take like 15-20 minutes max. So and most of them are pretty easy. So once again, go to puzzles, hit custom, go down here, select themes, right? Go click fork, double attacks, and pin. Then put the rating range of 0 to 1000. Then you can hit start and try to do as many as you can. Okay, so I think we will end today's class.